All right. One is tempted to ask, why were you arrested and where were you arrested?
They said we disobeyed order of a public officer. By interpretation, it meant there was some court order against the protest that we ostensibly or allegedly disobeyed. The order was never served. You know, before the protest, the initiator of the protest was Omoyele Sowore. I supported the protest as a Nigerian, as an upstanding Nigerian, as an Igbo man, as somebody who believes in justice. I supported it openly. Okay, I went around with Sowore to drum up support for the protest. It was supposed to be peaceful protest. And we did apply to the police, and it was approved. They went to court to get a court order to stop the protest in its tracks. The judge refused. They pressured, so the judge gave a limited order that the protest could go on. But the judge created a perimeter beyond which the protest cannot go. And it was named, in particular, Shehu Shagari Way, the three-arm zone that includes the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal, and the Aso Rock and National Assembly. That was all. I was arrested behind Transcorp Hilton Hotel along with others. Sowore was with me. I don't know how he managed to escape in that whole billow of smoke, of tear gas and all that. I think there was a vehicle that was passing by. He managed to jump into the vehicle. The driver opened the door and he jumped in, and something like that. Otherwise, he would have been arrested on the spot. I was with him shoulder to shoulder. So we were around the intersection of Ahmad Bello and Adetugumba Ademola in Wuse. He fell outside the perimeter that the court ordered that you shouldn't go. Right around where you turn onto a small street to go into the EFCC, and those two hotels that have the same name on the left, that was where we were. I was there. My vehicle was parked. My driver was inside. I came out, and I was calling Sowore on the phone. He asked me, where are you? I told him where I was. So he came. The moment he got there, we got together. A small crowd formed around us. People that came with him, and others, and so on and so forth. And we just started shouting, yelling, sloganeering peacefully. Free Nnamdi Kanu, free Nnamdi Kanu, free Nnamdi Kanu. I think maybe they had a scout somewhere around there. There was no police inside. There was no police cordon. There was no police contingent anywhere around. But apparently they had a scout. So the scout went all the way to the Hilton, Transport Hilton and Jerry Ghana Junction where they were, and told them that these people are over there yelling the slogan of protest. So they deployed from that side and started pursuing us. They came to us, we didn't go to them. We were way outside the perimeter, 2 kilometers away from the perimeter, beyond which the court order said we shouldn't go. So they brought their violence to us. It was a violent arrest, interdiction, forceful, even though the protesters were under their control because they had so many vehicles and so many well-armed police officers. I don't know what they were doing with loaded weapons, and almost each one of them was carrying canisters of tear gas, and they were shooting this thing indiscriminately to the point that it affected some of them. One of the officers was yelling, "Take it easy, take it easy." But the ones that had gone mad with impunity and draconism would not listen. They kept shooting and shoving people around and so on and so forth.
Looking at even the perimeter restriction of the court, is it an infringement on your fundamental rights, given the fact that protest is constitutionally guaranteed?
Yes.
So even as the court was limiting it, was it a breach on your own fundamental right?
Now, that order issued from an ex parte application. An ex parte application implies that there's a bigger case coming. So we're going to court and we're going to join issues with them in a substantive setting, in an adversarial setting, where they make their case, we make ours. Then the point that you just made will come in. Since when did Nigerians lose their constitutional right to peaceably assemble, their constitutional right to protest and to free speech? Protest is a communicative measure taken by citizens in a democracy to express their discontent to their government. If you lose the right of protest to your government, peaceful protest, then what is the essence of democracy? That is the question that has to be answered, and it will be answered by the court of law. But right now, we are talking to the court of the public opinion. This is a question I want all Nigerians to ponder. Do you think it is right for your government to arrest you, to subdue you so violently, and subject you to a whole week of imprisonment without trial, just because you came out and you told your government, I am not happy with a particular policy, can you please change it? The protest was not directed against the judiciary to begin with. The judiciary does not initiate prosecutions. The protest was directed against the executive decision of the federal government to prosecute Nnamdi Kanu. Prosecuting someone is different from trying that person. Subjecting you to trial is the duty, and it's within the province of the courts. But to trigger that trial, the executive branch takes a step, and that step is called prosecution. So we were out there to tell President Tinubu, not Justice James Omotosho or the Nigerian Federal High Court. No, we were there to tell President Tinubu, the man you have before the courts under trial did nothing wrong. And the manner by which or in which he was brought into the country does not give you the right to subject him to trial. That is all. Pure and simple. That what he was doing, or the enterprise for which you are traducing him and prosecuting him, is an enterprise that is protected under Nigerian law and international law. That enterprise is called self-determination. It's a view, it's a political opinion that may be inconvenient to the government, and that is why the mischief rule in every national law protected it as a political right. If the mischief rule, or people who founded nations didn't think it was wise, they wouldn't have put it there, that you have the right to self-determination. But when a government, your government, in response to that right, seeks to suppress your expression of that right by means of punishment of some sort, that becomes egregious. It becomes a challenge to the entire society to ask whether such is the correct government response in a democracy.
Some people also wonder, as defense counsel for Nnamdi Kanu, why did you embark on the protest?
Defense counsel to Nnamdi Kanu has not lost his right as a Nigerian. I know the rules of the bar, the rules of subjudice, and so on and so forth. I wasn't in the protest to tell the court on how to make rulings, or how to render judgments, or to express opinion on how the court is conducting the proceedings. I was in the protest to express my views to the government of my country that your prosecutorial policy, as deployed and levied against my fellow citizen, Nnamdi Kanu, is wrong. Stop it and halt it. It's my right to do so, despite the fact that I'm a defense counsel. Some of the most far-reaching reforms we enjoy today in terms of our civic rights, we are pioneered through protests led by lawyers like late Gani Fawemi and others who are still living a life, like people like Femi Falana. Being a lawyer and even participating in a case does not rob you of having an opinion over that case, a opinion you can express publicly without breaching the zone of subjudice that the court would not want you to go. I was careful to walk that thin line. And I was in my proper zone. I didn't breach anything.
And then one is also tempted to ask, going to public protest, does it imply by any stretch of imagination that you've lost confidence in the judiciary?
No.
In the judicial process?
No. I'm an officer in the Temple of Justice. If I tell you I have lost confidence in the judiciary, then I might as well hang my wig and gown and go to the village and maybe begin to farm. Okay? Or begin to go somewhere and become a philosopher and even lose interest in the entire society. No. I have confidence in the judiciary. I won 3 victories from Nnamdi Kanu. 1 before the Abia State High Court, 1 before the Federal High Court in Umuahia, and 1 before the Enugu State High Court. It is the same judiciary. They have given me a fair shake. I have confidence in the Federal High Court. They've given me a victory. So that underscores my confidence. But it does not mean that I'm naive. It does not mean that I will be blind to the political ill winds that are pervading the case of Nnamdi Kanu. There is this palpable political content in it that is far beyond the capacity of judiciary to resolve. And that is why judiciary has been grappling with that case since 2015, going on to 10 years. It's a very tough nut to crack for the judiciary, but very easy nut to crack for the executive branch. It's all politics. So my taking it to the public square to Nigerians was to, awaken the consciousness of Nigerians to see the politics in the case and to lay the blame for the lingering, for this case lingering for so much, lay the blame where it should be laid. The buck stops at the president's table. If President Tinubu directs the Attorney General to exercise the powers of his office under Section 174 of Nigerian Constitution to discontinue this case, it will be over. Pure and simple. That was my goal.
Maybe some people might need to ask, why is Nnamdi Kanu still being held if from several reports there is this argument that he has no case to answer, he has not done nothing wrong? Why is he still being held? And is there any window of chance for him to be freed?
This case is grounded upon the proscription of IPOB and tagging it a terrorist group. So Nnamdi Kanu got caught up as the leader of IPOB. Do you understand? That's one of the charges. As a matter of fact, 2 other charges were grounded on the basis of his leadership of a proscribed organization. So when I took the case to the Enugu State High Court in 2023, the Enugu State High Court ruled that the manner of proscribing IPOB violated Section 42 of Nigerian Constitution. That is the section of the Nigerian Constitution under Chapter 4 of the Constitution that prohibited discrimination against any Nigerian on the basis of ethnicity. The court mentioned expressly that the proscription of IPOB was a directed executive discrimination against the Igbo ethnic group. And sometime in October 2022, the United Nations Special Rapporteurs, an organ of the United Nations that oversees human rights violations in foreign countries, had also reached the same conclusion. It wasn't by conjecture. They mentioned the Igbo ethnic group. They are the forerunners of what I'm about to say. And what I'm about to say is this. Let it sink in. Nnamdi Kanu is being travailed because he's Igbo. Pure and simple. If he wasn't Igbo, this case would have been over 9-8 years ago. I'm not the first one that said it. A judicial body has said it. Enugu State High Court has said it indirectly. United Nations Special Rapporteurs has said it indirectly and directly to some extent because they mentioned Nnamdi Kanu by name. So let us stop beating around the bush. And this is the reason that really helped galvanize me. As an Igbo man, I shouldn't have a trembling knee. I'm not an Igbo man with a trembling knee. So when you step on the rights of an upstanding Igbo man and it gets my attention, I'll fight for him. If I don't do it in the courts, I do it on the streets. And I fight peaceably, but I'll fight strongly and vigorously. Because it's one for all for one. If I let that one sit up, if I sit it out, one day it may be my turn. I also fight for other Nigerians, but it gotta be Igbo first before I become a Nigerian. So I cannot be in denial that all is well with Igbo man in Nigeria. And Nnamdi Kanu is the poster boy for that.